Hæ, komið sæl. Ég heiti Knútur. Ég ætla hérna að bjóða ykkur velkomin á þennan viðburð í Háskólanum í Gdańsk, Pólandi og já, bara þakka ykkur fyrir að vera með okkur og takk fyrir að bjóða mér, Piotr. Yes.
Dzień dobry, bardzo miło mi jest powitać wszystkich uczestników naszego dzisiejszego spotkania. Przed nami Knútur Haukstein Ólafsson. Ja nazywam się Piotr Wajda i będziemy rozmawiać na temat islandzkiego kina niezależnego, ale także przy okazji przybliżymy sylwetkę tego oto pana, który tutaj jest razem z nami, zgodził się opowiedzieć parę słów o sobie. So we can start talking. We can start talking English right now. So let us maybe how about starting from drawing a background for your beginnings? How did your career started? So when did you decide to become a filmmaker?
Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, it's very nice to be here. In the University of Gdańsk. It's an honor. It's very nice. So, what I always say is like I don't think I ever truly made the decision. I think the world kind of works in a either random and or a deterministic way. So it's kind of one thing leads to another. But I'd like to say that what initially got me interested, in filmmaking was basically acting. So yeah.
So could you describe your main inspirations? Maybe you were when you started up thinking about filmmaking. So maybe you were thinking about some particular films, or rather about some particular actors.
Yes. Okay. So what happened was basically, I always say this is one of the first things that really got my attention. But I always watched a lot of movies, ever since I was a kid. But it was basically, when I saw Taxi Driver, maybe at age 16, 17, and, I saw Robert De Niro's performance as Travis Bickle, it was just so realistic, the acting. I just thought to myself, how the hell does he do this? This was the first time, it occurred to me, acting is actually like a craft. It's not just like for entertainment. So I would say, De Niro's performance in Taxi Driver. I would also say movies like The Godfather. I was mesmerized by Al Pacino in The Godfather. And Marlon Brando. And so I'd say, like because of this, I started to watch more 70s films with Jack Nicholson and Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. And so this really got me interested in acting. And so I applied for the Icelandic Film School, in the acting department. So yeah.
So do you practice method acting by yourself or not?
So I was very obsessed with method acting in the Icelandic Film School. I was very obsessed with the idea of being able to fool somebody into thinking that I was a different person, and then they kind of, slap you in the face and say, basically, you can't be someone else. You always have to use you, you always have to be, you can't fool anyone or yourself. You can't trick yourself into, become someone else. You always have to, be sincere. And you always have to use parts of yourself. So I was very disappointed, but I experimented with that, yes. But I think if you want to use the method, if you want to go, and especially for dramatic, tough scenes, and let's say, then you're gonna, draw on some personal memory, emotional affective memory. And I'd say you better be very good at it, highly trained, because you would have to be able to just turn it on and shut it off on a dime, And I've seen like guys like Dennis Hopper do this, and it's very impressive, but it's also kind of scary, It's like, so I agree with like all the acting teachers in the Icelandic Film School. They told us like, why torment yourself if you can get the same result by just acting it, by just having fun, and all of that. And I yes, I definitely agree. but I think it's just what works for you, like whatever works for each individual actor. It's like actors, it's like you have this toolbox with all these tools, and whatever tool works for you best, to be sincere and truthful, I think that's good. As long as you're not like hurting yourself or others, then yes, it's just very good. Yeah.
But at some point you started making films by yourself. What pushed you to that decision?
So yes, like I said, what I started with was basically making like comedy shorts and sketches with my two friends, Arthur and Heimir. We call ourselves Flying Bus Films, and we still have the YouTube channel, and it's a lot of just like comedic material. But when I got into the Icelandic Film School, that's actually where I had the opportunity to express myself more intimately and clearly, what I want to do, my own personal, style. And I started to experiment with darker stuff, I started to, because I'm also a huge horror fan. So I wanted to make my own little horror projects, and I was very happy. I was so elated that I got the chance to do it in the Icelandic Film School, because, there I had the opportunity. I had, more people with me. I had, the lights. You have, even money in some cases. So yes, that's. I mean, that was very good for me. I like that very much.
Is it difficult to create an independent film in such small country like Iceland?
Oh yes, I would say so. It's very difficult, and independent Icelandic filmmakers, they have. I think they only have like two options. Either they have to fund the films by themselves, completely, or they have to look for like funding, and support from organizations like, the Icelandic Film Center, and even that, it depends on how much, how large the budget, has to be for your idea. But, sometimes it's not even enough to go to the Icelandic Film Center. Sometimes Icelanders also have to look outside of Iceland, maybe to other Scandinavian countries like Norway or Denmark, for funding. So yeah, it's very difficult. Yes, yeah.
Is it easier to find funding in Denmark or Norway? Do you know anybody who got finances from such countries, other countries than Iceland?
Yeah, I don't know anybody like personally, but I remember they talked about this in the Icelandic Film School, and but I know like my friend Ólöf Birna Torfadóttir, let's just say Ólöf, to make it more simple. So Ólöf, my friend, she made her first full-length feature film just recently. It's called Hvernig á að vera klassa drusla, or How to Be a Classy Tramp. It's a full-length feature film comedy, and it was screened in the movie theaters in Iceland, and it's a low-budget film, obviously, and it's her first directorial, debut, and she didn't get the grant from, the Icelandic Film Center. So I have no idea how the hell she pulled it off. Just I have so much respect for her. She's got huge balls. I mean, she's got more balls than a lot of guys I know. It's just like, and I'm very proud of her also. And by the way, she is like she did the practical effects makeup in my latest film. So yeah, I'm very
great.
Yes, I'm very thankful to her. Yeah.
So we're gonna see her efforts in your
Yes.
film within a few minutes, I guess.
Yes.
Perfect.
I have to add this also. I'm very proud of her. She won an award for the practical effects at the Honoros Film Awards. It's a film award. David Attenborough has won, an award there, and filmmakers like Ron Perlman. He had a role in Drive. He played Nino, and also Paul Sorvino. He played Paulie in Goodfellas. Chas Palminteri. He has starred alongside Robert De Niro in The Good Shepherd. All these guys, they have won an award at Honoros, and I checked their IMDb page. They have all marked. The awards are marked on their IMDb pages. So I'm just I'm so proud of her. I'm very honored, and she deserves it. Very good practical. She's just very good, at practical effects and all of that stuff.
Great to hear it.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of films usually are co-financed by Icelandic Film Center? Would you describe them as some? Could you find some genre films that were financed by Film Center?
I honestly, I don't know too much about it, but I suspect that, well, you can just see it, there's obviously a pattern, it's the films that usually get funded are films that are very Icelandic, like films, about the lonely farmer, in the countryside, with all the sheep and all of that stuff. Those are the Icelandic films that usually make it to Cannes and all of these huge film festivals, Icelandic films that display the nature in Iceland, it's just, it's getting a bit tedious in my opinion, it's a lot of the same stuff.
I was going to ask you, what do you think as a young filmmaker, or in general, as a young person, about this traditional Icelandic cinema?
Well, the thing is, look, I don't want to bad talk my own country, or shit talk it, but it's like, this is just basically, the history of the nation, it's been difficult, it's a small population, obviously, like 360,000 people, and it's been the winters here are very rough, it's like so all of this is kind of in the history of Iceland, so it's a lot of times it's basically, the farmer thing, it's like in the mountains, and but it's like so we don't have like what the United States have. Like, they have this whole lore, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, Icelanders don't have this. Like, we just have, yeah, we have like dramatic films about lonely, depressed farmers. It's like, so one would hope you'll eventually start to see a change, because we have so many folklores, and it's like, why aren't we using more of these folklores for new horror films, and maybe iconic horror film characters? But no, we're just gonna make the same stuff over and over again because it sells, and it's kind of, yeah. I'm getting tired of it personally, but I mean, it works. It's Rams, Eldfjall, yeah.
Yeah, it was in Polish cinemas.
Yes, right. These are the films, yeah, right. That usually are considered this high artistic quality, but I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems to be a lot of like, yes, the same theme, kind of. So yes, I'm hoping that we will see a different, landscape in the future. I think Icelandic filmmaking is evolving, and I think the young filmmakers, I think people should look out for the young filmmakers, the up and coming filmmakers, because they're hungry, and I think, and they have, fresh ideas, I think, and they have maybe even bigger ideas, and as Reykjavik starts to grow bigger, I think, yes, we'll see more of a multicultural, maybe Icelandic cinema culture or experience. I hope so, yeah.
Do you think that there is a chance that genre films or films that use genre cinema aesthetics might become a part of, let's say, Icelandic mainstream? Because I'm asking because recently there was a great Icelandic film called Lamb in Polish cinemas. And this film, without spoiling it to anybody, this film delves into the horror aesthetics. So, but it looks so well that it doesn't look like a film that was founded from, from the scratch, but it looks like a film that was supported by something bigger, like Icelandic Film Center, let's say, or something else.
I'm just gonna assume so, yeah. But then again, there you also have the sheep, and the countryside. Yeah, it's usually it pops up again and again and again, And but yes, although I have to say, unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet. I've been very busy, lots of things to do, But also, yes, I'd like to say yes. I think we are starting to see a pattern here. I think we're starting to see an evolution, where we are seeing more and more of Icelandic horror films. I mean, there's another one called It Hatched. It's a low budget independent horror film. It came out just last year. And then you have films like I Remember You, Ég man þig, and you have Child Eater. And you have Thirst. That's like an Icelandic vampire, film. Thirsty or Thirst, and Graves and Bones that came out 2016. So I think Icelandic filmmakers, they're finally starting to catch up, but it's going at a slow pace. But it's going. The wheels are going. Fortunately, yeah.
And let's not forget about Harpoon Whale, Icelandic whale massacre.
Yes. Reykjavik whale watching massacre. Yes. That's probably one of the few Icelandic horror films that obviously take something from the American culture,
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about you and your films. So how about A Thunderbolt for Michelle? It's one of the films that the audience gonna see within a few minutes. So what is this about? Without spoiling everything.
Yes. So the film is it's an experimental silent film, and it's I don't want to really tell you what it's about. I want you to just experience the film, for yourself, and I want you to just kind of interpret it in your own unique way. But I can say that it's inspired by true events. It's inspired by the Cleveland kidnappings that happened in 2002, where Michelle Knight was kidnapped by this guy named Ariel Castro, and he kept her locked up basically at his home for 11 years, and she wasn't released until 2013. So she basically lived through 11 years of hell. And I for preparation, I read her book, Finding Me, A Decade of Darkness, A Life Reclaimed, which I highly recommend. I read this book for preparation, and the thing is, usually I don't tell people that this film is based on or inspired by these events, because I want it to remain a mystery, and I want the audience to kind of decipher all of the little clues by themselves. But I made an exception in this case, and I think it's going to help the audience to put things in perspective, I think. Yeah.
And when we were talking about this film before recording this interview, you've mentioned that it was recorded on Super 8mm tape. How was it? How was it to work on Super 8mm?
Yes.
Could you describe the main difficulties and differences between digital and analog filmmaking?
It was very difficult to shoot on Super 8. It's when you're shooting on digital, you have this monitor and you can see it. You see it in front of you. You can practically see the outcome, and it's very robust. It's very nice. I mean, it's and you can adjust everything, and you can take a lot of takes, again and again. But with this one, I shot the film on this camera, which is Super 8 camera. And let's see, yeah, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's running now. Yes, but this baby here, I have to shoot the scenes. I have to look through the viewfinder, so I don't have any monitor. It's just this, so I have to eyeball it, and that's very scary to do. And also, like, I shot it on like black and white film, so it's a Tri-X 7266, like these ones, black and white Tri-X reversal film, you know. And one cartridge like this, it lasts for like 3 minutes.
No.
So yes, so it was just very, like, I actually shot on 6 cartridges in total. And I had to, you can't take a lot of takes because it's very expensive. Like, I had to ship these to Netherlands for digitizing and processing. Wow. You know, and it cost me around like 150,000 Icelandic kroners, which I think is probably around, like, what is it? I don't know, like $1,000 maybe. I don't know. It's ridiculous. You know, it's crazy. So, and any sane person would say it's not worth it, you know, just shoot on digital, you know, but I'm not sane. So yes, no, I thought it was all worth it. And it's just so beautiful, you know, nothing beats the film. Film is just so, you know, the grain effect, you know, and it's just so, it's so tangible. You can, you know, feel it, you know, it's rusty, it's dusty, you know, it's just so, you know, compact, and, you know, I just love it. Yeah.
Will you stick to Super 8mm, or you're just gonna come back because of practical side of filmmaking to digital?
So yes, the thing is, this is, of course, this is basically a passion project, and but I put everything into this, you know, and it's I put a lot into this, you know. I used up all of my money for this film, you know, and I didn't have a lot at the time. And, you know, I told my actors, you know, Sara and Ivar, they're not professionally trained actors. They have no experience whatsoever in front of a camera. But, you know, we went with the method, you know, with the method acting thing, you know, and so they're really not acting, you know, they're just being very truthful, you know. This is basically real physiological emotion you're witnessing in the film. So I took, you know, Ivar, my cousin, you know, who plays the perpetrator, I took him aside, you know, and I said, I'm sorry, man, I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't even know if the film will look, you know, overexposed or underexposed. So just let's prepare for the worst, you know, when we get the files back, you know. I felt broken about this, you know. I was like, and he's like, it's okay, man, you know, I mean, worst case scenario, you know, we've learned something, you know, and all that. And I was like, yes, I said, yes, that's true. But, you know, I didn't feel that way. And so I was expecting, you know, just crappy footage. I was expecting something underexposed, overexposed, whatever, you know, because you just see through the viewfinder, and you have to trust that you know what you're doing. You have to eyeball it, you know. And when I got the files back and I saw in the thumbnail, you know, okay, hey, this actually, you know, I just, you know, it was very, and when I went through the footage, I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm so happy about this, you know. It's just because they both, you know, Sara and Ivar, they gave so much, you know, and honestly, all I wanted to do was to be able to catch truth on film, you know. And I feel as if that, you know, happened. I feel like I feel like I managed to do it because they were, you know, I feel like they were more truthful than a lot of people just in regular life, you know. They laid it all out, you know. I'm very proud of them. Yeah.
Great. So is it the first silent horror film in the history of Icelandic cinematography? Okay,
so yes, I would like to say yes. Like I would like to say yes, hell yes, but I'm not sure. You know, you can't rule out the possibility that like some crazy film geek suddenly digs up an old Icelandic experimental silent horror film, you know, at the National Film Archive of Iceland, you know. So, but you know, I can only hope that they would be very cool, you know, of course. But I haven't went through all of the film collection at the National Film Archive of Iceland. Yeah, so.
As a film scholar, I haven't found anything else like this in Icelandic film history. So
that's definitely comforting. Yes, reassuring.
There's a huge chance that we're gonna see the first silent horror film in the history of Icelandic cinema.
Oh man, I hope so. I hope so. It would be very nice. Yeah.
Okay, so let's chat also a bit about your another film that the audience is gonna see. The film called Inferno. How much this film differs from Thunderbolt?
Yes. Okay. So this is my graduation film from the Icelandic Film School, and so the original idea was mine, but Kristín Isabella Karlsdóttir, who is the director, let's just call her Bella. She also came in with her own ideas also. So it's kind of the screenplay is kind of a combination from us both, and she puts in her directorial vision in the film, and it's also it's similar in a way that it's an experimental film. It's also like it's made for interpretation, and it's basically about mood, and feeling and how you experience it, but Inferno is honestly, like, for me it was always about this guy who murdered his own wife, and he drowns himself in the bathtub, and he wakes up in hell in the bathtub, and hell, in that movie is interpreted in a way that he always wakes up and he wants to find his wife, and then he's reminded that he killed her. It's like a constant loop. And he wakes up with almost no memory of what he has done. He just remembers his wife and he wants to see her, and then he's reminded of what he has done, and he realizes the horror that he is the real monster, and then again and again and again. That's kind of the theme of the film. It's like my interpretation of hell, basically. And also I work with opposites, so hell is usually depicted like fire, and the devil with the horns, and superheat and all of that, but I wanted to kind of make hell like a watery place, it's like cold, it's bluish, it's like it's wet, kind of turn the whole idea about hell, upside down. So yeah.
I guess it's a time for a final question. So I wanted to ask you about your inspirations, about your real life inspirations, or about films that inspires you, films that inspire you the most.
Okay, yeah. So there are so many inspirations. It's like especially I always like there are so many directors. Films made by directors. I mean, the Godfather trilogy always comes to mind, Martin Scorsese, most of his work, Akira Kurosawa, Sergio Leone, there's just Tim Burton, I can go on and on. There are so many, Guillermo del Toro, it's just, I can go on and on, Wes Craven, John Carpenter. There's so many directors, with their own unique style. And so many also like horror films. I mean, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, John Carpenter, the original one, it's so many, Alien, The Thing, 1982. I can go on and on. It's so many films, so many different styles, directors, it's even Alexander Payne. And I'm not like, I'm interested in horror films, but I like, Alexander Payne's movies, and, I can go, all day talking about, many different inspirations, but also like just in general, nature. I'm fascinated just by nature, like human beings, it's like we're wired to tell stories, but what I find is so funny is, we don't have to, make like extreme versions of animals with like Pokemon or whatever, you can look at the nature, it's very special. It's to me, nature is like an art, even though, biologists will say, and I certainly agree, that nature is probably just a blind designer, it's still amazing, if you look at just a tiger, if you look at that fur, if you look at the great white shark, a saltwater crocodile or, an eagle, I mean, it's beautiful. So nature, elements like fire, water, electricity, thunder and lightning, just so many things just in nature, that I think are the essential, inspiration. And I mean, also, like I have here, I went diving with like great white sharks, and this animal is just, it's been made into this villain, in movies like Jaws, but it's just an animal like every other animal trying to survive, it's not like, and seeing it firsthand, with my own two eyes, very close to it, it's not interested in us in the least, it's like, it's not like in the movies where it is depicted as like a human, like anthropomorphic, eating machine, like it's always following you like a serial killer, like the sharks, like they don't give a shit about us, like it's just, but yes, I mean, this is just an example, so many animals, nature in general, elements in nature, just so many inspirations. Yeah.
So sharks don't give a shit, and this is gonna be
Yes.
our conclusion for
Yes.
this conversation.
Yes,
Okay,
that's something
you.
we should learn from sharks. Yes,
Yeah.
not to give a shit.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you once again that you agreed to participate in this event. It's so nice to see you and to show your films at the Film Center in Gdańsk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.